Now that we have talked about segmenting markets and customers and what motivates customers to go to different destinations and choose different destinations, we need to very briefly discuss what we call distribution channels. And distribution channels, you'll learn a lot more about this in your marketing classes, but you should at the very least be a bit familiar with them simply because this is how people make purchases, okay? And I have no doubt that many of you have actually gone through and you have bought an airline ticket on a website. Very few people walk up to the counter these days and buy an airline ticket, but it does happen. I'm sure many of you have, paid for an Airbnb or booked a hotel online. However, there are lots of different ways that distribution or the sale of those services occurs. So the first and most basic one is what we call direct marketing. This is when a service provider markets directly to the customers, and they communicate directly with the customers themselves. That means that there are no intermediaries, so there is no commission paid to any other organization. It's very cost effective and companies make a lot of money from this. So literally it would be you, let's say Qantas sends you an email. They say that they're running a special. You purchase that special directly from the Qantas website. And so there's no commission, there's no money going anywhere except to Qantas. So that is what we call direct marketing. This is what companies want to happen because they want you to deal directly with them, because they can recoup the most amount of money. Once you start purchasing things through companies other than the company that's providing the service, that is when that service provider starts to lose money, and they don't like that happening. Now, not everybody does this. Lots and lots of companies advertise their services through what we call a referral network. Okay, so these are chains that help to market other companies within a network. So for instance, a lot of airlines have partners. So for instance, you go to Qantas, you want to go to, South America or somewhere in Africa or wherever, and they offer part of that service, but they can't get you all the way to your end destination. So as a result, what they do is they say, okay, well, you can now buy this ticket as a linked ticket. So we'll take you from point A to point B to point C will be done on another airline. And so it's basically a branded referral that occurs. Again, there are no intermediaries, so it is again more cost effective and it's more convenient for you as the customer because you don't have to now buy two completely separate airline tickets and worry about how that is going to work out. Now, these are both different from what we would call retail networks or wholesale networks. I'm not sure how many of you tend to use travel agencies. You probably use what we call wholesale networks a little bit more frequently. But travel agents still do offer lots of different products and services online. So travel agents, and this would also include, for instance, Flight Center, those types of organizations, or student travel here on campus, those sorts of things. These travel agents, they make bookings, they collect payments, they obviously get you your tickets, and as a result, a percentage of that money that you pay goes to the travel agent. So the service provider is not making as much money in the end. A certain percentage of that is going to the travel agent. So that's part of the reason the service provider, Qantas would much rather you purchase a ticket through the Qantas website, because as soon as you go to Orbitz or Booking.com or Student Travel or Flight Center or whatever, part of their commission or part of that money is going as a commission to those travel agents. Wholesale networks are a little bit different in the sense that you don't have a travel agent, you have what's called a tour operator. And in this case, what happens is the operator actually buys these tickets from the service provider, and then they repackage them and sell them to consumers. So you might have a tour operator who buys airline seats, who buys hotel rooms, who buys, I don't know, tickets to various different attractions. They bundle them together as a package and then sell them to the customer. Again, because this is inclusive, this is one price for the customer, the tour operator essentially works with the providers to get their commission and then also get the things that they're buying at a slightly reduced charge. So again, service providers are losing money when they do this. So again, that is why your service providers would prefer that you go through them directly. However, again, you as the customer, if you can buy every element for your holiday from one provider, as opposed to buying your hotel separate from your airline, separate from your transportation on the ground, separate from your dinner, so forth and so on. If you can buy them all as one package, it's a lot more convenient for you instead of dealing with 10 different service providers. So that's why some customers prefer to do that. But ultimately, every service provider ends up losing some money as a result. We also have something that we call wholesale networks with travel agents acting as the retailer. So in this case, we have both the tour operator and the travel agency involved. So the tour operator does what they did in the previous example. They put together these packages, and then they use travel agents to promote and sell these packages. So the tour operator gets a commission from the service provider, and they get the products from the service provider at a discounted cost. The tour operator then pays the travel agent a commission when the travel agent sells it to you as the customer. So now, instead of having one intermediary, you have two intermediaries. And so as a result, the providers are earning less and less money every time. So it is less and less profitable to them because, again, customers can often go online, figure out how much these different bits and pieces would be individually, and see if it makes more sense for them to just do it themselves. So customers are becoming more and more savvy when it comes to that. So just to give you a different way of looking at this, the supplier, the wholesaler, the retailer, and the traveler. Now, to a large extent, this was kind of the traditional distribution channel. However, that has really changed quite a bit because, as you can see up here, yes, okay, this is really what we've been talking about right here. However, you do have all these other elements that people are looking at in order to make these kinds of decisions. So lots of people are now buying things, or at least learning about, even if they're not buying them, they're learning about these different products through Facebook, through Instagram, through Snapchat, through Google, etc. So there are so many different ways that information about these products and services is now distributed to our travelers. Now, the thing that I do want to bring up that's quite interesting, so I remember years ago when Orbitz and Expedia and Booking.com and all these other online travel agencies came into being, the expectation, and there was a lot of travel agents that were really stressed out thinking that all of a sudden nobody would be using travel agents anymore because they could buy everything through the internet, and so it would eliminate intermediaries. And to a certain extent, that did happen a bit. So we call that disintermediation, when intermediaries kind of went by the wayside, kind of decreased. However, the internet has actually created more and more opportunities for new intermediaries on the internet, okay? So rather than going into a brick and mortar store and talking to a travel agent, most of these services and products are now available online. Now, of course, Thomas Cook is now gone, but Flight Center, now you can actually do a lot of your booking on Flight Center with Flight Center online. So we actually call this reintermediation. So for a while, travel agents, intermediaries kind of went away. That's called disintermediation. More recently, Intermediaries have reestablished their influence by going online, so we call that reintermediation. And so now there are more and more options available because everybody wants to do everything online. There are so many options available to you in terms of future jobs working for Booking.com, or even think about Airbnb. Airbnb is now not just offering places to stay and accommodation, they're now offering experiences. So they are now expanding the service offerings that they have. So these are things that we have to think about. These are things that should be front of mind for you when you are considering jobs that you can go into in the future. And these are also things that we really need to keep in mind when we're talking about tourists, how they make decisions, how they're motivated to go to different destinations, and how they actually make these purchases.